Welcome back to another episode of That Sound Podcast. And if you love music, you're in the right place. Today we are joined with Luke, of course, and we have a special guest on today, Shep, who is going to be reviewing the Sonic Temple Festival, the most recent two-night, no-repeat Metallica shows. Shep, welcome to the show.
Thank you, boys, for having me. I appreciate it. I heard through the grapevine from my good buddy, Chris Sulik, who I've done quite a smattering of shows with. He was like, hey, you're going. I'd love to pass you along. And so I'm more than happy to be here. You guys are definitely marking and, you know, as somebody who loves to document and just kind of take accounts of things, you guys are definitely in my kind of vein. And I appreciate what you guys do, because you're, for the sake of historical records and recording, it's on site, and it's the way it is supposed to be, just straight up and raw and
yes, that's
wrecked.
the
source.
Yeah, no, appreciate the kind words, but look, we're all part of the family, and we all love to talk music, and it all brings us kind of full circle. It's friendship, it's just talking. The music, of course, is a big plus, but I just love that Metallica fans are more than just music. You know, I love that, you know. So, kind of first question then, Shep, how did you get into Metallica, or how did it get into your life?
So, I feel like I've had to answer this question more in the past year than I ever have in my life, even though this is like, I'm almost a decade into my loving of Metallica. But I will tell you, um, I'm from Michigan. I'm from the Detroit area, and more than anything, here in Detroit, we do love our music. Metallica had a weekend here on M72, and they embraced it, the history of the soul and the Motown and the jazz and stuff that has come out of this neighborhood. But I grew up in a household that loved Bob Seger. We were a Bob Seger family. I could walk you through the whole discography, all of the live albums, all of it. I know all of it. I love all of it. And so what comes with that is Turn the Page. And Turn the Page is probably my dad's favorite song. And I always like to say that I came out of the womb, I was born, and that was probably the first piece of music that I ever heard, like, physically out in the world. Yeah! That was like middle school, whatever. And then in my second year of high school or so, I really kind of just like took a turn, and I went from a lot of grunge. I was listening to like Pearl Jam, and then I went heavy for 6 months, a lot of like Stone Sour, Slipknot, and then the switch flipped. And like the beginning of 2018, Metallica was in the second half of their worldwide arenas.
Mm-hmm.
And within months, like figuring out, they play every other day, they're on a set schedule, the set list changes every night, they post pictures, they post videos. I was just a sponge. And so I probably within months or days could date any single piece of Metallica media that has happened since that like beginning of that year in 2018. Like I will see pictures from like 2019 and I'll be like, oh, that was on the third leg of the North American arenas, probably in this venue.
So where did it go from there? Which direction did it go? Did it go to the early stuff, or did you go Black Album, or what way did you go back listening?
So I think I vaguely remember the order. It was Garage Days. It was Garage Inc. like a little bit. Like it was Turn the Page. I loved Whiskey, and I was listening to a lot of Blue Oyster Cult at the time, so I loved Astronomy. And so those three, I didn't really crack into the rest of that record for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But from there, I went right into the Black Album. I remember like that early 2018, I repeat constantly. And everybody had heard Nothing Else Matters to some extent, so I was already familiar with that. And then after the Black Album, I think it was like Puppets, and then S&M. And then from S&M, I got into my Loads. And then actually, I remember, I think the one that I kind of learned the latest and was really comfortable with as far along in the process, even after Saint Anger, was Justice. Justice was last. Oh, in a strange way. But yeah, so it took me about probably I started in that February of 2018, and I think by June I could do like you could put the entire discography on shuffle, play 2 seconds of it, and I would know exactly what song it is.
Wow.
So it took me probably about 4 or 5 months to learn the entire discography, and that was 2018. So they did the arenas in Europe and they did the arenas in North America. That fall was the first All Within My Hands. That fall was the Justice box set. That fall was a whole bunch of great stuff that was happening. So 2018 was a good time to be a Metallica fan. That was the whiskey, that was all of that. So the band was very busy, and it was a very good time for me to just kind of absorb things and learn more than anything. So yeah. And within about an hour of hearing that Lars was on Howard Stern and he announced an album and Lux was played for the first time, to literally within an hour, I had called my academic advisor, I had called my parents, I had called all of my friends, I had called my housing director, and I had accelerated the rest of my schooling. And I graduated college a year early
No
so
way.
I could do I Disappear. So my first show, that first round of ticket sales for the first 2 years of M72, I bought Detroit, my weekend, right? What an honor to do my first shows at home and to
Yeah.
not travel. And I was like, if I'm doing it, I'm starting it my way, my home shows. So my first two shows were M72 Detroit. And then I also bought I Disappear with the intention that that was August of what theoretically would have been my first year of, or my fourth year, my last year of college. And I was going to be done. I was going to be done with school. I was going to graduate. And so after
Wow.
that corrosion conformity show, I had 4 straight academic semesters, and I never had more than about 2 weeks off between school and classes and curriculum and camps and things like that. But I said, if I can, I will. And that was the idea.
Wow.
So
That is dedication, Luke.
That is unbelievable.
so
Shep, we got to take our hats off to you here, a tip of the hat.
Yes. Oh my God. That is
so
dedication to the highest I think I've ever heard for somebody so determined to just go out there and follow a band like we all love Metallica. Like that's amazing.
yeah.
That's so
You
cool.
know
So
what? I hope Metallica have a wall of people with their headshots in a frame being like that person fan of the year.
did this,
Yeah,
like
you have one
the
fan of the year,
sacrifice
Shep.
board,
Yeah.
That's unbelievable that you accelerated your schooling
Yep.
in
Yeah.
order to do that. Like that
Yep.
is dedication to the cause.
Wow.
Literally every single show since then, excluding All Within My Hands and Sonic Temple that we'll get into, I have been within 20 of the same feet of rail.
Wow. And your favorite spot, of course, is with Chad.
Yep. I love Drums 3 more than anything in the world. I'll be honest, it was not intentional. I ended up there on accident my first weekend. I had no idea where I wanted to be. I actually didn't know that with I Disappear, I would even have a chance at rail. My first week in Massachusetts, I didn't even know what a frantic ticket was, which you've heard about from Chris and my peers and things like that. Um, I had no idea. And so we stroll out there, and I was like, oh, that's James's chair because I can read it and it says Papa's ass here on it. And I was like, that's familiar. um, I I just was writing this down after since getting, a lot closer to Chad. But on my first night out there, I brought like a vinyl and with a marker so I could write on it and I could make signs because I wanted to make a sign for Pantera that said like floods on it. I still haven't heard floods and I've seen Pantera like 12 times. Anyways, but I wrote a note on it to Chad because that was the last thing I was going to do was like embarrass myself and yell at the technician and be that kid who's like screaming and wants to, have answers and things like that. And I wrote, "Where's the Sunburst?" the Ken Lawrence, which I
Yeah.
love. It's one of my
Yeah.
favorite guitars. And I looked at the rack and I knew it was kind of gone in Europe. And so I held that sign up. This was the first interaction I'd ever had with Chad. I was like, "Where's the Sunburst?" And he looks at me, he reads it, and then he goes, "I sold it." And he turns around and he walks away.
No chance. I
And
think
then he kind of realized that I wasn't like I was genuinely curious about it. And he kind of came around. He said, "It's in California. I'm working on it." And so that was day one. That was day one, ground zero. And I was like, I don't hate it here. Night two, I kind of ended up over there again. And then Chicago came around and I was like, well, Chicago's really busy, but I'll probably be able to get that spot. So I went back. And then, 3 or 4 weeks later, I'm in Canada and I'm finally like talking to him and he's like, "What's your name? Where are you from?" Like
Yeah.
slowly. It took a long time, but he got used to me kind of being around him and I had sort of earned his respect in Minneapolis. There were guys yelling at him about the Call of Cthulhu, the snake bite that has the words on it. And some
Yeah.
guys, two or three behind me, he's yelling at me. He's like, "Chad, what do the words say?" And Chad just kind of like looks at him. I call it the death glare. He'll just like hardcore stare at you. And he just turns around and I looked at him and I said, "It's the third verse of the thing that should not be. Not dead witch, eternal lie, stranger eons, death may die." And Chad just looked at me and he pointed at me and I was like, yes. So being able to kind of talk shop and
You
but
impressed them.
also my rule down there is do not speak unless spoken to. I will never call for him. I will never shout at him. Like the people who are 20, 30 feet to my right on top of James, they're yelling at him all night. I'm stiff as a board because I have like this secondhand embarrassment. I think it's so embarrassing that people who are up there and they're like, "James, light my cigar." And I'm like, I don't even want to look at you guys. But Chad's from kind of where I'm from. He's from Midwestern America. And so he and I treat very similarly with people and we engage with people the same way and have similar interests and things like that. Fundamentally, he and I are very similar people, I'd like to believe. And so I think that's why we've gotten as far as we have.
So cool though. Like it's so cool that, and I feel like you went about it the right way. Like you said, where the people are yelling and the fucking assholes probably 6 or 7 beers in them, and like that's not how you get it. You went 100% the right way about
Yep.
earning the respect, and you got it back.
Yeah.
Because then I was having a look at your Instagram today, and the phone call.
So, genuinely, when I left for Syracuse, which was the first show, my mom looked at me and was like, "Are you going to go see Chad?" And I was like, "Absolutely. That's my spot. If I even leave there, I should start the tour the way that I finished it last
Yeah.
year." And my mom was like, again, Midwestern courtesy, like, "Tell him I said hi." This is what we do in the Midwest. It's like pass along a hello, tell him thanks, whatever, just secondhand. He clearly keeps you entertained and he keeps an eye on you. And for that, I am grateful that you returned home and you had a good enough experience that you want to do it again. And he's part of that. And so I didn't get to tell him in Syracuse and I came home and I was like, I saw him and he said hi, but I didn't have a conversation with him. And so it wasn't until Toronto night one that he finally came over. He and I have a bit, basically. It started in Minnesota last year where he'll walk out and he'll come up and he'll point his finger at me. And I'll point my finger back, and 9 times out of 10, static, like electric shock. We will zap each other. I literally have no idea how he does it. He jokes, he like shuffles his feet on the ground as if he's like generating it. But we most of the time are able to zap each other. And so he
Wow.
came back, he was like, "What's up?" We caught up like for 2 seconds. "How was your winter?" or whatever. I was like, "Chad, just want to let you know, my mom says hi. She's grateful that I had enough fun that I'm back here again, and you are a part of that." And he was like, "That's cool. Tell her I said hi back." That was night one. I thought that was it. I thought that was the end of it. Night two, he comes back and he was like, "So is your mom like, what's her name?" Like he's really cheeky about it. He's so funny about it. And it was Toronto. Toronto's a massive city. And so I had really good cell service. And he was like, "You should call her." And immediately I knocked my buddy. I go, "You got to get this on film. You have to film this." And so Shane pulls out his phone and I pull it up. My mom goes to bed at like 8:30 at night. So I was surprised she picked up the phone at all. But I was like, "Chad's here." And he didn't ask, but Chad grabbed my phone and he walked away.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so my mom claims that he was all like courtesy and business, like, where are you from? What's, are you okay that she's still out here on tour? Like, she has fun, she has a lot of energy. Um, my theory was he asked her what my favorite song was. And my mom, more than anything, knows that last year, Inamorata was really, really special for me. And so she probably said Inamorata. And Chad had the set list at that point, and I didn't know. I thought last year in Mexico on the first weekend, Inamorata was done. That was the last time they'd play that song. They tried it, the experiment was over. That song is too long, whatever. And then what was my cue? So night two goes by. He gets me my phone back. The energy is great. The Canadians are so sweet. They're so polite. We're having such a good time. That was the first night we had Limp Bizkit. And I think I watched Chad. So second drum kit comes around, and second drum kit usually has all three 72 season songs on it. And they
Yeah.
moved Inamorata to drum kit 3 because it was so
Oh.
long. And then you couldn't like put that right next to Cthulhu. And it was kind of, it
Yeah.
took up a lot of space. And so I remember I was like, okay, if they're getting rid of Inamorata, they'll bring back like You Must Burn. All right. So I'm expecting Chad to pull a Truckster out. And he does. But there was another cue somewhere that I was like, I looked at my buddy and I was like, they're playing Rome. They're not playing another 72 song. They're playing Rome. And I grabbed him and I was like, she's back, she's back, she's back, Inamorata. And so to have that song back, which was for all intents and purposes, that was my song. That was my highlight of last year. And so full circle. I thought that when I was like, Mom, what did he tell you? And she was like, bye, have a good show. He told her that Inamorata was on the set list, and I didn't
Ah,
know. And so I thought that was really, really great and really funny. So whether or not that happened, I don't think I've gotten a clear account from either of the two of them, what was exchanged in those 30 or 45 seconds, but I would not put it past them.
Wow.
So
Wow.
man, what a good dude. What a great dude.
so such a good guy, such a good guy. In Nashville, he's got two girls. He's got two 16-year-old daughters, and they've since separated, but he's originally from Wisconsin. He moved to Georgia for that girl and his daughters, and so he's in the South now. But the girls were with him in Nashville on
Ah,
that
cool.
Saturday night, and he brought them out to the station and he made them like set the picks up. I didn't talk to him at all because he was in dad mode. He wasn't up to cause any trouble, and I left him alone. But Limp Bizkit came on, and Limp Bizkit played Dad Vibes. And in Toronto, I watched him stop what he was doing, which I've literally never seen him do, and pull his phone out and film 30 seconds of Limp Bizkit during Dad Vibes,
Wow.
which was hilarious. And so it starts again, and Fred Durst does his call out. He's like, "We're all my dads with their kiddos here, whatever." And Chad's like raising his hand, and his daughters are there, and they're looking around. And I was like, "Oh no!" And he just starts middle-aged man dancing, and these girls are like covering their eyes, and he's so genuine and so real about it, and I'm grateful that he's part of my experience and that whole side. The security supervisor on that half of the stage, always up for a fist bump for me. One of the pyro guys and like the engine guys that comes out and like fights beach balls with us. I see him all the time. He's a sweetheart. Um, so it's one of those things. Like if it isn't broke, don't fix it. And
Yeah.
it's definitely not broke. And the other thing that I love structurally about the third drum kit is that first kit goes, you're fired up, you're ripping through those openers. The 72 stuff comes in, and you'll have a band member kind of leak over to our side. You usually have James come over for darkness or something. If the ballad is fade, he'll come and he'll play the acoustic on our side, on our mic, which is really cool. Um, and then 1 and 2 goes quiet. And right when the slow part of the set, the instrumental, the ballad, which is usually Nothing or Unforgiven, and then either a behemoth like what's a night 2 standard or a night 1 standard in the
Hi-Fi or something, no?
well, that's the Thrasher that moves to
Yeah.
kit 4. but
Yeah.
it's either
Yeah.
Inamorata or it's Sad But True.
Okay.
Just these big, like lurching. We get them. And so the first and the second side kind of have this up and this down. There's no singing during the instrumental and nothing is
Yeah.
quiet. The Unforgiven is kind of slow. And Inamorata starts, and I get to see Lars play my song 8 feet from me.
Yeah.
And so one of the other special things about Drums 3 is that the first song of the night, Whiplash or Creep, whatever it is, and the instrumental, Orion or Cthulhu, are the only two times that the entire band
Yeah.
is in the corner.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so we get all four of them for at least 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And we still get them kind of spread out throughout the day versus corner one. Corner one is almost dead silent after the first quarter of songs.
Yeah.
And, yeah, and, yeah, ain't no sense.
That friendship with Chad rolled on to something very special then as well. You got to do something very, very cool that a lot of people would love to do. Tell us all about that story.
And so Chad was just like, it was the first talk I had with him that day. He was like, and I was like, no way. I swore he was joking. He was fucking with me, and he wasn't. And he just literally, he let me jump the rail. And he looked at security, and I had talked to the security lady who was very nice, and she was like, he's in charge. I was told not to mess with him. And I was like, no, that's true. I'm glad that I have kind of the wherewithal to like hand my phone off to people and just say like, hey, can you take a couple pictures or whatnot?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I kind of knew. I literally asked myself this question. I was like, if I got to pull one guitar out of the 12 and hold it just for a couple seconds, which one would it be? And, I thought about the Ken Lawrence. I thought about the White Snake Bite, which is usually the Inamorata guitar. I thought about the old school, the original V, or the copy. But I love that racing B. And I have this old beat up 1983 Honda Shadow, and I bought it basically scrap. Like some guy had wrenched it to hell and the computer's all wired goofy. And I was like, I can mar this thing up however I want. And I got it licensed and registered. The M72 plate was still available. And I sanded the tank from its original ugly purple, and I tough coated it black. I put the yellow stripes on it, and I got a big 72 on the side. And I'll get you guys that picture at some point.
Yeah,
But
no, we definitely.
Yeah, that'd be incredible to see.
I have that guitar, basically. It's sitting in my garage. And I was like, I have to, if I have the opportunity. All right, here, I'm going to see if I can just spin this quick and easy. But, oh yeah, let me drop the brightness here.
Oh wow, I can see it. Yeah, yeah.
So,
I'll get
yeah,
you to send that to me, and
yeah.
we'll
But the big yellow stripe, big old 72 on there, and then my plate is M72.
Oh, that's
Ah,
So,
and the M is the Michigan M, right?
yep. And so there's a highway up north locally. Michigan, the way we number our highways is M and the number. And I've had the chance, I actually grew up around Michigan trunk line 72. So it was like full circle. That ended up shaking out the way that it did. So I'll get a nice print of the picture of my bike, and I'll get a nice print of the picture of me with the guitar, and I'll probably put them in my office.
Definitely. It has to be done. So
Yeah.
this the past show then last weekend, right? Yeah. So you hit your 25th show, right?
Yes. Sunday night was my quarter century, 25. So,
Wow. Before we get into the set list, what is your favorite album?
man,
I know it changes. I know mine does anyway. Luke, I'm not sure about you, but I know mine definitely changes.
yeah. I don't know. I think it is that thing that it always bounces around, depending on what I feature heavy in the rotation. So, like, I've just been bumping Master of Puppets flat out for the last 3 weeks,
Yeah.
like all the time.
Yeah.
so after Nashville, we're actually sitting in line in Nashville. We were talking a lot about like the turnover of 72. And so right now I'm going to say my my album right now is 72 Seasons, because after getting Too Far Gone in Nashville, I was like, God, I love this album. Like it was literally just I love this album, and it's done so much for me. If you catch me on kind of a moody sort of day, um, my soul album, my spiritual album is definitely Reload. My bracelet, I have a Fixer bracelet right there that I usually wear with me. I love Fixer. I saw Low Man's in California last year. So I guess right now in my energy in my life and being on tour on 72, I'm gonna pick 72. But I think long term, more often than not, it is gonna be Reload. So
Oh,
yeah.
interesting, interesting. Yeah, I'm a fan of Load and Reload. I know Luke is too. I'd say at a push, if I was to be asked right now, I think I'm still on the Justice train. I just love that heavy trash, and I know it has.
Getting Straw last week, and I did the
I,
festival with some of my
Ah,
buddies
yeah.
who
I can't
we'll
wait.
get into that. But like
Yeah,
one of my
yeah,
buddies, I didn't realize, I remembered how big of a Justice fan he was. He found me after the show and he grabbed me and he was like, "We got two in a row," because it was
yes, yes,
Straw, and he was, oh my
unbelievable.
God.
So let's get into Sonic Temple Festival. So the headline was Metallica. Was it Korn, Linkin Park?
Mark. Yep.
And then you had like the likes of Suicidal Tendencies.
ST played, Ice Nine played,
Ice Nine played, Power Trip played. I seen. I like.
Power Trip played. They overlapped with Metallica though, so I did not
Okay.
catch.
Who? Before we get into the set list, then did you get to catch anybody else?
Yes. So I let it be known on record, I have always disliked festivals. It's too busy. There's too many people. There's too much going on.
Yeah.
I will sit here and say I've been spoiled on the Metallica tour because it's all Metallica all the time.
Yeah.
But I wrote everything down. Give me 2 seconds.
Yeah.
I caught my big bands. So I guess we can backtrack.
Yeah.
Was the way that I got into Sonic Temple. I wasn't going to pay a base pay for whatever the expensive GA pass was. No way you wouldn't catch me putting that kind of money on. And when this show was announced, and I was like, well, I have to do it now because I'm not missing 2 shows for the sake of the leg. I said, I am not paying more per show than I would to my I Disappear average,
Okay.
which is about $62 a night.
Really?
GA early entry after you divide the 1,200 that I paid by 18 shows. So the frantic package pays like $400 a night. I pay like a quarter, a tenth of that, whatever.
Wow. I would have thought it was more. Would you, Luke?
Yeah. I
60
don't know.
is nothing. Like I know there's a lot of traveling involved, but
Yeah, I mean that's a cost, but the raw per ticket price is I'm paying only about $63, I think.
interesting, interesting.
Okay.
So how much was it then into Sonic Temple?
So Sonic Temple, I am a lurker of the forum and the internet board and whatnot. And literally the week I started looking for Sonic Temple tickets, I'm not going to name the org because I abused my power a little bit. We'll get into that.
Okay.
They do a lot of like the waste and the recycling and the landfill diversion or whatever. And there was an org that was volunteering or accepting volunteers in exchange for a pass. And I put down $30 for my t-shirt and I gave them a $250 deposit. And that was it. So I just heard that I was getting my $250 deposit back because I did my volunteer hours. So I paid 15, I paid $7.50 per night at Sonic Temple.
Wow. Wow.
And 10 volunteer hours, or approximately 2.5 hours of volunteering per night of Sonic Temple. And I volunteered on my off days. I volunteered on Thursday and I volunteered on Saturday. And so when I registered, they asked me so they could schedule me as best as they could what top 3 bands I wanted to see. And it was Metallica, and then I put Mastodon, and I put Corrosion of Conformity. Those were my big 3 on the bill that were my must-sees. So I guess we can now go into my logistics. The org that I volunteered for, I checked in at an employee checkpoint, and they handed me 4 staff parking passes. So I was considered festival staff. and I parked in my own lot, and I had my own entrance. And they
Nice.
gave me working wristbands with working access.
Okay.
And I went in the staff entrance, and backstage and the trailers were unencumbered, and side stage was back and unencumbered. And on my first night, kind of jokingly, free will, I circumnavigated backstage of the entire venue.
Okay.
I was backstage. I was
And
backstage.
did you get to bump into anybody?
So when I was kind of scouting on Friday, I was like, okay, I know that I want to see Metallica from the back. I want to watch them from behind. I was up on an upper concourse, but I went down behind the main stage. Bobby Blitz of Overkill walked right past me. Gary
Ah,
Holt
cool.
of Exodus walks right past me. And I had sunglasses on. I had like black sweatshirt, black hoodie. I had like gloves and things like strapped and carabiner to me. I'm sure you've seen the I Disappear, the laminates, the
Yes.
badges. I had my badge hanging off of my pants. And for those unfamiliar, this looks pretty legit. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean anything,
Yeah.
but if you don't know any better, it kind of does. And when I was in Mexico City, I bought a black hoodie with M72 and Metallica embroidered on it. Like good looking, high quality nylon sweatshirt, 200 pesos, which is like $5 American.
Right.
And I had my black pants on, and I did the loop in the back, and I saw all the trailers. I saw where the guys went in. I saw the sheriffs and things like that. And so I made the decision. I was like, all right, I'm going to come in basically behind security. And that's what I did. I went up the service elevator and I popped out behind security, and I was like, hi guys, how are you? Are you here for the rest of the night? Shook some hands, maybe gave a couple of those guys picks so they would leave me alone because I had some spare like big four got riff picks on me. And I literally sat up where lighting and pyro was, and I
No.
watched from the back.
Nice.
Holy shit. Wow.
I got in really early on Sunday, back to what we were just talking about. And I had a couple buddies who were like, I think we want to do rail. You get in early because you're staff. And I was like, yes, I do. And so I walked down onto the stage and I held rail for about 30 seconds while my friends ran in and got the front corner. And watched COC from the front corner. I was the only person on that rail that knew every single word of all the Corrosion Conformity, and I was smitten. I love that band more than anything. In that 30 minutes, they came out and they sound checked because they were the first band. So I got like 5 minutes of sound check, and then I got 30 minutes, and I was like, I want a America's Volume Dealer song. I got Diablo Boulevard. I wanted an In the Arms of God song. I got Paranoid Opioid. Like I was in heaven.
Wow.
So, I love those guys. They're going out with Judas Priest and Alice Cooper here in the States in amphitheaters in the fall, and I will definitely catch that bill probably once or twice. So,
Wow. Wow.
yeah, that was pretty sweet. That was pretty sweet.
Wow. Wow.
So Sunday night, with all of my access, so I saw COC, I bounced around, I saw Guar from a ways away, I saw Ice Nine from a ways away. I heard through the grapevine that they always need help with the beach balls. And I was told that if I appeared in a time and in a place, I could help with the beach balls. And there I am during one. I walked down the side that I was able to walk down, walked right around security, said, hey, and I said, I'll be right back. Walked right down with security, and I shuttled beach balls through the back.
No
And
way.
was working for 2 seconds. Head of security who knows me from the rail, I saw him about 10 feet away. I had my hat brimmed so low because I knew if he saw me, he would get so suspicious so quickly. So I saw like one person that I knew, gave a salute, and he looked at me and he was like, I shoved everything through and I was gone. But I got a video of me pushing all of the beach balls through. This is an exclusive, mind you. I'm only talking about this now because I know that the org that I was with has given me my money back.
You couldn't tell anybody. Okay.
No, I've not told anybody, but I was
Wow.
That's so good.
5 minutes on night 2. So
Metallica crew member, huh?
a little bit, little bit. All
Yeah.
security thought I was, so maybe I was that day. But
Take it, take it.
Yeah, yeah! Yo!
Well, let's get into night 1 of Metallica. So let's go through the set list here. So of course we get a long way to the top. We know shit's gonna get real.
Yep.
Ecstasy of Gold. And then we get into madness, if you
well,
ask me.
just a note. During Ecstasy, I'm right by James, and every night during Ecstasy, before the singing starts, the a cappella, he stops and he sits down in his chair and he puts his head down. He prays,
Yeah.
and I've kind of almost picked that up from him. Is Ecstasy will start and I'll take my hat off my head and I'll just sit there and I'll say my thank yous and why I'm grateful to be here and whatever higher power that is serving me and allowing me to do this. I definitely kind of take a moment for myself. And so that was the first time I had an Ecstasy of Gold up tucked away quietly. And so anyways, I thought that was really special. Usually I only do it because I'm like, James is taking a moment. It might be worth it for me. And so yeah, I do that. I kind of picked that up a little bit. But anyways.
It's cool. I love it when it comes on, right, Luke? It's something special, isn't it?
You just know that once that hits, it's the opening. Just that and
Yep.
everyone lights up. They're like, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
But when it rolls into Creeping Death, Harvester of Sorrow and The Shortest Straw, like that is rolling back the years. That is intensity times 1,000. Like,
oh my God.
My God. The Shortest Straw. When I woke up that morning because of the time difference between Ireland, obviously, and America. And I looked, and I think I text you, Luke, or maybe you text me.
I think I had sent it to you because I saw a Shortest Straw. I was like, oh, man.
What the fuck? I said, holy, like what? Like 3 of the most hard-hitting songs of all the albums. That, how old are them? Like 80, what is that, 88? And
88, Justice turned 30.
Yeah, 84 and 88.
Yeah, so it's probably 35 now almost.
Like I was listening to a podcast, Clint Wells's one. I was actually listening to his Metallica podcast, which is fantastic. And he had a guy on who was at, which one was it? Was it Nashville? And I think it was like 30 years from his first show to this last show that he was at. And he opened with the same 2 or 3 tracks that they did 30 years ago or something.
Yeah, that's unreal.
And there's like that there is just Creeping Death, Harvester of Sorrow, and The Shortest Straw.
Just almost mission statement songs. And Straw is a tour debut.
Yes.
You can sort of count All Within My Hands as them kind of working it out. And that was All Within My Hands in California last year was my Straw debut. And so I was so excited about it. I was right by the soundboard and I bashed through that. It was so, so special, so exciting. And so to hear Straw again, but be right by security, and it looked like a lighting director, and there were like 3 Ohio State troopers like right next to me. I was like, I can't be that excited about it.
I know.
I'll give myself up. I'll look it's like a fan. And so I'm sitting in, and so I had to express myself, and I knocked the shoulder of the person next to me, and I was like, this is a tour debut, by the way. So I looked like I was working and I knew what was going on. But I couldn't be that excited about it, which was like, oh my God, it was deafening. So I hope I get that one again so I can thrash through it. But oh my God,
if we ever get to South America, Luke, or somewhere, like if that comes on, oh my God, I'll lose. I think I heard it back. I think they might have played it in Dublin in 02 or 03 when I first caught them. I think they might have slipped it in, but still, I want to hear it again.
I could only imagine what it's like, when it starts to hit and then the it's just
it's so good. Very jealous, very jealous. So then we roll into King Nothing, which I love.
Yep.
And then we get our 72 seasons, double tracks. We get 72 seasons, and If Darkness Had a Son,
What a tune.
which you said is your best album, your favorite album, which is
Oh my
great.
God.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that crowd. So then I'm trying to, I kind of know what the structure of the songs are. And so when songs are about to start, I watch the count-ins. And so the people next to me, I think, were less suspicious of me because I knew everything that was going on with this set list. And so um, I remember I looked at whoever was next to me, the lighting girl, the trooper, the security, the whoever, and I was like, this is new stuff. We'll see if they know it. And I got to like be amazed. This was the first time that I've had a crowd basically at me because I was behind them. So they were yelling our way. And that crowd went all in on the Temptation. Like they knew it. They knew their stuff. And so it was fantastic. It was so cool.
brilliant,
So
brilliant.
cool.
And then you got the Kirk and Rob Doodle, Devil's Lettuce. I don't know
Kind
what.
of the format of the way that those go is on the no repeats. If it's the first night is usually just kind of like a true organic doodle. And then
Okay,
the second night is they'll throw something in there. It's,
something local or something.
yeah, we'll get to what the local one was on night two, but
Yeah. So then we kind of get the ballad. Then I guess the day that never comes, which is kind of it's been in there for most of night ones, I think, right?
yeah. So
Yeah,
day kind of has a higher volume. I always like to joke, that intro tape starts and we all kind of groan. We're like, oh, we want like us, we're in the mood for a sanitarium or something. We'll get day,
yeah,
which fundamentally is very different songs. Sanitarium was one of my first like favorites. And so every time they play day, I'm always like, man, it could be Sanitarium. And mind you, day is so cool.
it's very
I'll
good
sit there,
live.
I don't have any songs that I don't like.
Yeah,
It's just always kind of you play trade-off, but by the end of it, it was like, wow, they rip through it and it really well done, really comprehensive. And I think it's cool that any Death Magnetic gets to
yeah,
kind of live and see any light of day because, there's a lot of holes in the discography. And so to have that at all, I think is good. I think it's
yeah,
cool.
yeah. It's another great album too. So then we roll into Shadows Follow, Orion, of course, the instrumental. Nothing Else Matters, Sad But True, Battery. Battery is always good.
I like that it's featuring heavily in these sets.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
And more notably with Battery is they brought the bridge, they brought the middle bit back.
yeah,
Back, yeah, the original.
They stretch it out. James will give you a good, how does it feel to be alive?
yeah.
And that crowd was like giving them everything. They sang all of Nothing Else Matters. I do think they lulled a little bit before that in Orion.
Okay,
It wasn't necessarily an instrumental kind of crowd, but Sad But True. The lighting was great. People were bouncing. That mosh pit was going. I could see the pits, which
yeah,
was phenomenal. I never get to see the pits. And then right into Battery, they were turning, they were flying, like so into it,
yeah.
so into it.
Awesome. And then we got Fuel, which I seen today, the day that we're recording this. It's his anniversary of the video that
Yeah.
we did. Yeah, I seen that today on Instagram or something. Fuel is always great. Seek and Destroy, of course, and then The Balls, Master of
Yep.
Puppets.
So the balls I think actually came out during Seek.
Oh, did they come out early? Okay.
Yeah, because they always try and clear pyro. So Puppets at the end of Puppets has pops,
Okay.
and Fuel also has pops. And
Yeah,
so
it
the
has the
point
fire.
of
Yeah.
Seek in the night one format is the wall song.
Yeah.
And I remember actually being up there during Fuel. The girl who was next to me, she almost walked away during Fuel or before Fuel, and I was like, "You should stay." And
Yeah.
she was like, "I'm going to trust you." Oh, pyro, and I was like, "Yes."
Yes.
So that was really neat. But yeah, the fuel always goes over well. That crowd was singing. James usually does his bit. He was like the way he talks about it and to introduce it, he goes, I had a dream about it was a square and it had red on it and black and white, and there was a hand and it was holding a hammer and there was like blood spatter. And he said, and then I was like, and then I should try seek, and that crowd will yell back, and destroy. And so I've literally listened to him do this bit like 8, 9, 10 times, and I sit and I laugh, and we'll all sit and we'll draw the square and the hammer, and it's funny. But that crowd, he just loves getting them into it.
Yeah.
And
He's
that,
so
that
good at it.
exchange.
He just orchestrates the whole crowd every night. He's so good at it.
Yeah.
How was the sound overall?
So I was tucked up in the back, and usually we're in the round, and I have at drums 3 on the rail on the donut. I have a fully mixed speaker right in front of me, so I get the full show as well mixed as it can get. I don't get any of the big upper subs, and I'm far enough outside of the snake pit that I don't get any of the snake pit speakers, so I have no delay. The only delay I get is when Lars is right in front of me and he whaps that snare.
Yes.
But other than that, my sound.
You hear the snare first.
That thing is loud.
It is loud, yeah, and it smacks.
Yeah, it smacks so hard.
So the sound from where I was actually on the back end, it was not bad. It started and it was kind of fuzzy, but I have the privilege of knowing the ins and outs of every single minute of this set list.
Yeah.
And so I kind of knew what it was supposed to be, but I had a good enough time that I was doing pretty good. But I heard from out there that they sounded fantastic.
It must have been a very different experience then at the festival, being at the back, compared to up on the rail talking to Joe.
Just strange, so strange to me. But I remember looking down and kind of knowing all the cues. So like during day, James will come and he'll sit on a stool and just kind of play the opening half of that song, sitting down just quietly. He'll get the spotlight on him. And so I remember I watched Chad drag the stool out, and I was like, okay, it's day. And more often than not, there's an assistant on the donut that will run up and grab the stool from him when he's done with it. But she wasn't there. And then I was like, what does happen to that stool if it's on the side? And so I got a video right when James started like right when it starts to build and break. I have a video of James sitting up and kicking the stool backwards. He knocks it down like really dramatically, and he walks away from it. And that's something that I would never see on my side on kit 3, because he's always either tucked way up on the bridge, kind of a quarter away from me. And so that was kind of the joy of getting that view, was like there are some isms and some things that I never see that I know about. I know they happen, but I've never had the chance to see kind of how they engage with each other during the day that never comes. I never see James and Kirk right on top of each other playing that harmony, because they're always different corner.
Yeah. I guess there's pros and cons of each aspect of being at the show, but I still would want to be up where you are most of the time, even though you mightn't get a full range of the stage. I think, like you said, them tracks where all the band come together, like, is it in the Marathi you said, and something else, if they play that, a drum kit 3, I don't care. If I only see that for 20 minutes, a half an hour of the whole set, I'm still taking it from being at the back and taking everything in. I'll still take the front.
Oh, yo!
It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on and to hear the passion that comes through you from your college days, rushing through college to hit up Metallica, to be invested so much, like all of us, into the band, but to sit back and listen to your passion about the band, it was actually a blast having a chat with you. And hopefully down the line we'll get you back on and we'll have some more Metallica chats. But a big thank you for coming on.
I'm appreciative that you guys had me on, and I'm definitely going to kind of keep an eye on my friends and see who else you pick up from my crew, my folks, because I always love hearing their stories. There's only so much I hear about in line, but you guys really seem to pry it out of everybody.
Good to hear. All right, until the next one, keep
Shep, thank you.
All right.